everybody, and welcome back to Unbridled and Unfiltered. I'm Lori Rothman, along with my trusty partner in crime, co-host Russ Slicker. Hey, Russ.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Lori. How are you? I guess
Hanging
before
in
we
there.
get started, we should just make sure everyone's in the right place. And I would say the best way to do that now is if you read or see the chaotic political news and you think, oh my gosh, this is terrible for the country and for the world, you might be in the wrong place. But if you see that and you think, oh my God, this terrible political news, this chaos is good for my set, then you might be in the
Oh,
right place.
I was laughing because I wasn't sure where you were going with that. I was like, of course, it's been a wild week for the stock markets and just all of this insanity starting in Washington. I mean, what do you make of it all?
Look, it is really hard to know, and look, you have to kind of laugh about it, partially because anything I think I know, the next day changes.
So, can I share a quick story with you about my
Please,
household this week? All
please.
right, so my daughter came home from her friend's house and she said, "Mom, my friend's parents were freaking out. They were stressed out. They were screaming into the phone, demanding to talk to their financial broker. What's going on? And why are they so afraid that, they've lost all of their money? Like, what about us?" And I just said, "Well, there's this trade war and you might not have a college account anymore, but it doesn't matter. You don't want to go to college anyway, right? Right? You're fine."
Well, look, and we have to. It's not funny, obviously, when people have real financial crises. But for all of us, because we're all going through this to some extent, it
Mhm.
is helpful to laugh about it and to joke about it. And by the way, the other thing is, to your point, Lori, it's nice to be able to use these things. It filters down to our kids, and there's some learning experience there.
Well, the best comic I heard this week with, all due respect to you, Chris, was the guy who was like, "I know who my rich friends are. They're the ones that were having a terrible week. Clearly, the guys that, had no money, they weren't affected. They were just going about their business and saying, oh, you're so upset about this market roller coaster. You can definitely pick up dinner because clearly you've always had the cash."
Yeah, totally. Well, I'd say that some people said to me that, "Hey, Russ, you're in finance, so why don't you tell me what you think about the tariffs?" And I said, just keep in mind before I tell you that I'm so successful in finance that I'm here during comedy set for you now.
Stop.
So,
Not true. You are. You are a jack of all trades, expert at all of them too.
right. Is that what the saying is?
Yes. I'm changing the saying. That's what I'm making it to be. But hey, so I was a financial journalist for many years too. And
Right.
so same thing. People like, I'm just like, tell your significant other to buy you jewelry, gold necklaces, diamonds. You don't even have to bury it in the backyard. Remember, it was like buy gold bars and store them in your safe. No, just go gangbusters. And, I mean, the spring holidays are coming up. Like, why not? Like, that's what I would do. Maybe some fine art, the store of value, right?
But you sound like my wife and my daughter who say,
I
"Don't worry
could.
about storing
Amazing.
it. Don't worry about storing it. I'll store it right on my wrist or neck."
Right. 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 Oh, what a roller coaster. I mean, these tariffs, I mean, we are in an all out trade war, and obviously we record and then we send out and share pieces of this most of the time. Not in real time, but just kind of over time. We like to call it an evergreen. So who knows what next week will bring is my point. But as we stand right now, I mean, what a whiplash of a week. I mean, what do you think of these tariffs? Like, I know you had a funny, you have to, I'm trying to like lead you into your, just the funniest bit that you had last night.
Well, I did one little tariff bit which I enjoyed, and I said, look, I understand that the president has told us that all these countries are ripping us off, and some of the countries are surprises to me. Like China's a big trading partner, and the EU, and even Canada and Mexico are big trading partners for the United States. But then I saw, some of these countries singled out, like, Vietnam, and apparently the Vietnamese people have been ripping us off for decades. And my joke is, has President Trump been to Vietnam? Because if he has, and they're ripping us off for decades, where are they hoarding all their money? They must be going long bicycles.
Listen, there are certain things I don't mind the tariffs on. Like, there are certain things we do not need, right? Like, I was joking again with my kids, this boba tea, that's all the rage that they're obsessed with. Have you seen these drinks with these like gelatinous balls in them?
Yeah.
They're super, super sweet. They take 2 sips and they go, "Puh," and then they dump it out in the sink and those balls clog up the drain.
I just, I'll tell you what, I think we should be talking about that drink now that I know that those are called gelatinous balls.
Well, I was using that term to describe these hideous boba tea drinks that are, little
That's
shots
what I
popping
meant.
up on every corner.
That's exactly
And
what I was talking about, Lori.
I know, it's good to be self-deprecating, Russ, but you don't have to use gelatinous balls. All
I
right.
didn't
That's
realize I was being self. That's none taken.
the other tariff I wouldn't mind on those crappy little plastic toys that my dogs constantly eat. They get into them. I don't even know where they find them, literally like in the dog parks. And then it costs me thousands at the vet to get these things removed. It's just happens all the time. We do not need the crappy little Chinese plastic toys. No more.
Let's just stop those from coming in the country. I'm with you. I'm with you. The funny part about the tariffs, which is especially with our kids, the news trickling down to our kids, is they're now like, it's one thing at work blaming tariffs on higher prices. My daughter's telling me she needs a bigger allowance. Tariffs, Dad.
Literally. Not well. Is she? I hope she's putting a percentage, the equal percentage on you about what the price increase is.
Well, I told you.
Right? It better be 100%. What are we tariffing China today? I don't know, 105%. That's what the difference should be in her allowance.
I tried to describe
I'm on board with that.
I tried to describe. If she does that, I'm going to do a reciprocal tariff.
How?
I don't know. I don't know. I said that and she said how, and then we got disconnected.
How convenient. How convenient. I don't know. I know you. You're a pushover. You give those kids whatever they ask for. Dad of the year.
Sad, but I don't know if that might not make me dad of the year, but it is. There's truth to it, unfortunately.
Let's open up our conversation and bring in our very good friends, comedian and social media influencer, Rebecca Berman. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us. It is so great to see you and have you along with us. I had the pleasure of meeting you last summer at the Ladies of Laughter comedy competition. We just, if you don't mind me saying,
Not at all.
like that. And you joined us for a bunch of comedy shows around here in Westchester, and you've invited us to some of yours, and it's just been a beautiful relationship so far. So
I'm
please,
so happy.
started.
Well, you guys caught me like Passovering my house, and
I said no excuses. Let's go.
I did love that, Lori. That was very funny. You're like, what is this Passover nonsense? Just get on the Zoom. So,
By the way, I ordered
your house.
yeah. Wait,
No, I ordered everything to be delivered. I'm like, I'm not spending time on this. My people, let them eat matzah. I don't
let
care.
them eat cake on Passover. Let them eat leavened cake.
Yes.
My daughter is, my adult children are home for this holiday, and my daughter's like, what are you doing, Mom? They need you on, she's like, what's your problem? And I was like, I know, I gotta put makeup on and make my hair look okay.
So what, are the matzo balls going to get too heavy? Are you going to have like sinking matzo balls?
I only make
if you spend 10 minutes with us? I mean, come on.
I know, I only make the brisket. That's it. That's my only job.
Well, here's
It's not
the
even
beauty
heavy
here.
lifting.
No.
The beauty here is now, whatever happens tonight or whatever Seder you're hosting, you can blame it on us.
I know.
Just no, Russ. Throw Russ under the bus.
Just Russ. I'm only going to blame it on him.
All
I
right.
need to hear Russ's one-liners. I love them. They are amazing.
They are.
I feel like the best joke writer I've ever met. Because
You are
liner.
way too kind. Way too kind.
Well, tell us about your.
They go on and
Tell us about your jokes.
tell you about my joke.
Well,
About your inspiration and where you got started, and because I know that you haven't been doing this all.
No, I haven't. I started right in the pandemic, literally that week. Don't you love when people tell that story? But the reality is I took a class with the actor Jeffrey Tambor. It was a personal monologue. Most people's came out, they had to be heavy and personal, and a normal person would have a sad story when you say something very personal. And I came to the class with my very personal, and everyone was laughing, including Jeffrey. And he said to me, "You're like Joan Rivers." And he changed literally one word. The first word of my set, well, I didn't know it was a set. He said, you need to say, I love food. That needs to be your very first thing you say. Because it was all about food and things people say to me my whole life. And I really called out a lot of friends. I called up funny stories about that happened to me as a kid. And yeah, so after that, the whole class was like, you're a stand-up comic. And I was like, I have no idea how to write comedy. I didn't even write this. This was like an improv bit. So that's the
Well,
story.
that's a wild story. And also to be, first of all, obviously he's a legend. So you got to like, your start was performing with, listening to, and getting advice from him, which is
Crazy.
awesome. I mean, that's how, and why did you join the class? Just because you were thinking, hey, I want to work out something new, or I need to get my head out of the, the chaos in the
Well,
world.
because they said it was a personal monologue class, I was like, okay, it's Jeffrey Tambor. He's so funny.
Mhm.
Hey now, like all of his catchphrases, all the things he's been in, that he was canceled in the Me Too movement. I was like, I need to be in that guy's class. I need to be treated like shit.
Your history. So you have this other side of your career. You're a social media influencer. Speaking of that food, I mean, you're really bringing these two things together, and you do these really cool restaurant reviews or just drop-ins.
Yes. Yeah.
And it sort of dovetails with your comedy. Like, and a lot of people wouldn't think those two
I started like
go hand in
years
hand.
ago. I was trying to be Guy Fieri. I wanted a Food Network show. And I made up my own thing, and I found this kid to like film and edit everything for me. And we went around to bakeries in my town and whatever. It was super fun. We got a lot of traction on it. Then it ended, and I went to a career conference for college girls when I was in my 40s. And I met a bunch of producers on the Today Show there, and I said, hey, I'm a real estate agent. Like, I want to be on TV like Barbara Corcoran. And they go, why don't you focus on middle America? And then they also said, you have to do something you love. And after I left that meeting, I realized I love food, and I have been like in the food space ever since, because I just like eating. I like going to restaurants. It's like,
I love that.
and
I love that. And but I'll tell you that when you first said that you want to bring together two things that you love, my head went to George Costanza, and it includes food. But anyway, but I don't know, but I love marrying food and comedy. I love that.
yeah.
And do you talk about food in your comedy? I know some of it. I know
Sometimes,
you
yes,
do.
I do. I talk about weight a little bit, and food a little bit of both. But really, I do feel like my comedy is more, I like to say I'm hypersensitive and I'm insulted by everyone. And that literally is what fuels my comedy. I mean, I have some funny. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Rebecca, but I'm intrigued by your story because I feel like, you mentioned your career as a real estate agent, and I know that you raised a couple of kids, and, were you able to do all of these things simultaneously, or have you just sort of gone from one thing to the next and let your career sort of unfold the way it was meant to unfold? I mean, or was it more strategic than that?
I have been acting and doing comedy, like improv comedy, acting classes, being in plays comedically my whole life as a hobby. So that was always something I did. And I always had like jobs that whatever. And so I don't know, it like 10 years ago, everything just changed. I went to a career counselor. She's like, why aren't you an actor? I cried for 15 minutes. I was like, that's not a career. And
Well, I'll tell you, you do a bit about that, which is just killer. I won't ruin it for people, but a bit about the career counselor, which is funny. When you first went, like I don't know if you recall your first time doing stand-up comedy, going on stage, first few times. How did it go?
That's what first times. I had to interrupt right there.
yes,
I am.
You always ask about people's first time.
I'm intrigued.
What is that?
there you go. It's the first time.
It's like a little
in
weird.
your life, right?
Weird. I don't.
No, I think it's a good question. It's like your speed round. Like how people have that speed round they do.
Yes, and now after I was so rudely interrupted, Rebecca, I did.
Lori,
well,
she is rude. That is exactly what she is.
Your first time doing comedy,
Yeah.
Lori, doing comedy. That's the first time I'm curious about.
Much to ask for to clarify.
No, I think you guys have an amazing gig here, and I love it. And you're both really funny.
You're too kind.
No,
So did it go well? Like, did it go well? Did you bomb? Did you crush it?
no,
How did that
actually,
first few times?
okay. I think we were in a tent. It was COVID. I had signed up for a class. The class never ended. We did a show in the summer at the Ridgefield Playhouse, and I was nauseous, terrified, wanted to vomit, and I thought it was absolutely horrible. And I had a bunch of friends that came to it, and it was mortifying. And I was there 15. So you're just sitting there literally ready to like fall on the floor or just run away. There's like the fear and the ridiculousness and not knowing anything about writing comedy or it was absurd.
Oh my gosh, I have to ask you how you conquer the nerves. Because honestly, like, I have to have a Tito's and soda before I go and do a set. Like, I'm a little concerned about this behavior, actually. Like, any advice?
First of all, I have to ask you, how do you have a drink and then get up? Are you?
Yeah. No,
What-
I need to, I get so physically nervous. Like, my heart pounds and I shake. Like, it's a physical reaction to nerves.
Yeah.
And only vodka can calm.
Yeah. So do you feel better if you have a drink, like then you get up? Or you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. How about Russ? How about you? Can you just get up?
So I do. I'll tell you. I very much. You're talking about comedy though. So that's on you. That's not on me. But I'm seeing Rebecca's reaction, and that's why they're taunting me. But
Yes.
I don't care what my wife told you. So I do get very nervous, and in fact, I've had this situation more than once where if I'm not early in the lineup, so I'm there and I can get in my head, I'm listening to other comics, and of course I'm thinking, oh my God, they're hilarious. I'm looking around the crowd, I'm thinking, my heart starts to go. And I've had this situation. I will sometimes have a cocktail. More than once, I've had a cocktail that was sort of heavy, and then by the end, I thought, ooh, I shouldn't have had that much to drink. But for me, typically, if I have a successful joke early in my set, I get up there, I might be really nervous telling my first sentence, but I can very easily get calm if I hear just enough, like the audience is listening to me, there's enough of a chuckle, and I totally calm down.
We love you, Russ. You're doing a good job.
Again, I don't care what my wife told me.
I definitely have never, ever, ever had a drink before I've performed because now I'm at the point that I'm afraid that would mess me up.
Yeah, it's fair.
But it probably wouldn't, but I just have that in my mind. And most of the time, I'm like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? This is ridiculous. But once I am up, I'm like you, like I can just, I remembered it and I'm like on autopilot and I almost don't know where I am. Because, the rehearsal kicks in or whatever, that I'm on stage, I made it,
I mean, there's nothing better when you hit that flow, right? You're nervous, and then you have your first joke, your first couple of minutes just really hit, and then you're just, and then you're good to go. And then I'm already 2 sheets to the wind, and what the hell was I thinking?
Yeah.
But whatever. We're all wired differently, right?
Yeah, so true. And I have performed where nobody laughs, and it does make me forget what I'm going to say.
And not any performance I've ever seen you, Rebecca.
I mean, it hasn't happened as of late because
No.
I'm sure it has. By the way, you're hilarious. So the sets we've seen have been wildly successful. But I'll speak about myself.
Yes.
I do know at like an open mic or two, I've been there. And when I tell a joke that I really feel confident in, because it's worked before, and you hear silence, even if it's for a millisecond, but worse if it's for a few seconds, because maybe it's an open mic and people aren't paying attention.
Yeah.
It throws me. And I have to learn how to stay in my persona and not be thrown by a single silence.
Yeah, I will tell you, even just us talking about it, I just got the nerves.
Yeah. Right?
Because it's like, I know exactly what you mean. And I feel like the more I've done it, the more comfortable I've gotten and I've ignored that someone hasn't laughed or I'm really just on autopilot. And I feel like that has happened in the last year.
Yeah, doing it over all the reps.
It over and over.
Now, so what about like the server in the room or people talking or pulling out their wallets all these little distractions.
I don't even hear them. Do you hear them?
Really? Yes.
Oh.
So we were all in a show together. Russ produced Hilarity for Charity in Scarsdale a couple months ago.
It was amazing.
And
amazing.
It was amazing. Congratulations to you guys for pulling that off. But some of the comics were uncomfortable because the light was so bright, it was blinding. I actually preferred that because I couldn't see.
Yeah.
And Rebecca, I know you like to do a little more crowd work, but
yes,
again, talking about locking into your flow.
Yeah.
It's hard if you're on a path and then somebody has a jerky movement or a waiter's coming around or something. It can really distract me.
You guys,
how do you not?
You guys were at a show with me at a restaurant where someone was like mad at me that I was speaking to them.
That was crazy. That was crazy. They were sitting in the front. They were sitting in the front.
You cannot sit in the front and not think that some comic, one of the 6 of us performing, isn't going to say something to you. Whatever. That's. But I was.
And you weren't aggressive. You weren't mean. It was like that was weird.
It was really weird. And I feel like because I've done it so much, they didn't throw me off. I felt like I wasn't having a good set because they were throwing me off, but it didn't throw me off as far as like me doing my performance. But it
didn't look like it did. That's the point. You powered through, not powered through. You did your set. It was great. And I think it would have thrown me a lot. I
feel like if this was 2 years ago, I would have like probably forgotten what my next line was and had to pull it, pull a line out, like been like, I lost my place. But that does happen. It happened a lot when I was first doing this. Because the minute I would notice the audience, I'd get like nervous and I'd forget. But Lori, I wanted to say about the lights. I have finally gotten used to them. I don't disagree with all those other comics. When I was first doing stand-up, whatever, the first like year or two, every time I'd get on a stage, I'd be like, oh my God, I can't see anything. And mentally it does throw you off because then you have to say, no, forget the lights. Don't even look at them. Like I try to look at like that fourth wall so that I'm not, but it's certainly something that has come around from doing it a lot. Like that I'm comfortable. That was.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to add in about that notorious restaurant show was that I was impressed that you made it their problem, that couple that was a little serious in the front row.
Yeah.
It wasn't about you. It was it was their problem. And to have that paradigm, that point of view, I think must be very freeing. Right?
I felt like, okay, you guys are fucking weird. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
So I'm on real TV. No, I was like, you guys are really weird, and this is weird, and I didn't do anything that was out of character. Anyway, and I think it's because I've been doing it, not a lot, but for a longer period of time that I've gotten comfortable. The one thing I want to say about crowd work, the first 2 years I was doing stand-up, and I had a really big show in Chappaqua, and all these men comics, and they were all really funny, and I produced the show, and I was in it, and I felt really bad. One of my sisters was there, and she said to me, Becca, you have a lot to say. Why don't you tell people, why don't you like try to talk to the audience? And I was like, I don't know how to do that. That's crazy. I want to tell you, from that time she said it to me, I've been trying to have a conversation with the audience. And I like doing improv, and it made me much more comfortable.
It's another example of that comfort level because I do like, I think of myself as someone who can be funny on things I hear, but once you talk to the audience, you don't know what they're going to say back. And so you do need to be comfortable because yes, they might answer you in one of the 3 ways you expect, and that's great, but they might answer you in something, we've heard, I was at a show, actually it was one of shows Lori was in recently, but another comic asked essentially a yes or no question to someone from the audience. You, sir, do you have this or this? And then the audience members started like, first they were the dinosaurs, and then they died and became oil. And then, and like the comic's like, sir, so is that a no again? Like it got so weird. And you have to be comfortable,
Right. So you have to kind of be used to it and know to just shut them up.
Yes.
They sounded like they wanted to come up on stage based on this story.
Right.
I think the real pros present company included, have their safety words, have their default words, their, break glass in case of an emergency, go-to phrases when they run into. Do you have any of those?
Yeah, I have, when I rehearse, if I'm going to talk to the audience, I have like 3 or 4 things I know I'm going to say, and I have a response for them if they don't give me the response I want. So that I
that's
know
good.
I'm going to, oh, okay, what if they're like, oh, yeah, I don't know, whatever. If they're rude to me, or I have like a line that I say, and then I just go back to my set. But I haven't like ever really been heckled. I don't know what I would do if somebody was really, really rude. And
Right. Hopefully you don't need that. But another question I want, because you've got this experience and you've been, you've obviously, it shows in your performances.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it really does. Have you ever been in where the audience is just not when I say not the right audience, either they're all, I don't know, maybe all young people or all
they're all men in their 30s.
Exactly.
In their 30s. Lori, I don't know. Your stuff is like really great. I feel like they would love, men in their 30s would be laughing at. They are not laughing
at me talking about menopause. Come
I know.
on. And my,
some funny.
hoarding baby oil like P. Diddy. Like, I don't know. I have the same problem.
It's relatable.
I did a set in the city. Yeah. And this 30-year-old comic goes up and says, I'm so old, I can't get a date. And I'm so dried and, frizzled up or whatever. And I was like, what? You were 20 years.
Exactly.
Stop your complaining.
Exactly. Yeah.
And she feels like
exactly. That's
anyway. Yeah.
I do not resonate at all with men in their 30s. They just sit there like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then one time I was at a show with a bunch of young guys, and I called, and I knew they were in the front, and I knew they were never going to like my set because of my experience with young men in their 30s. And the very first thing I did when I got on stage was call them out. I don't know what I said to them, but it was obnoxious and funny, in good taste, so to speak, so that they laughed. And I almost felt like it changed my whole performance because I knew they weren't going to be interested in whatever I was going to talk about. So by calling...
Yeah, but they knew that you were on their side.
Right. And I have to remember to do that again. That was a good... a plan at the last second that I've never used again, and I should.
So, Rebecca, tell us what you got going on, where you're going, because we love stand-up comedy, we love your show, we love your online presence on all those restaurants, and so tell us, where's it going?
Well, I'm hosting. I'm doing a lot of hosting at a club in the city. At the Comic Strip Live. I've got some of that coming up. Done that, a little bit of that already, so that's exciting for me because I'm on stage for 2 hours. I mean, Russ.
Right.
You know how amazing that is.
It is.
And what else? Producing some shows in Westchester. So I know you guys have been in some of mine. We'll do more. We'll be in more shows here together.
Well, Rebecca, you run phenomenal shows. I haven't been to the one in the city that you run yet, although Comic Strip Live, wow, it's obviously a great venue. The ones in Westchester are great. You always have a great crowd and a great lineup.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I love working with you guys. I've told you 4 million times. I think you're amazing, and I'm sorry that I was Passover-y for today's episode. But I also wanted to say I'm trying to put a show about comedy and suburban moms in production, and
wow,
that's what I'm also working on. Like a show.
We can't wait to see that.
Streaming.
Oh my gosh, you think you have enough material there? Yeah. Suburban moms? I mean, come on. Desperate housewives.
Yes, desperate.
Westchester, whatever.
Desperate.
Well, I cannot wait to see that. That's going to have a big audience of men also, I'm sure. Well, thank you so much for being on. We had a great time. Always a fun time laughing with you here on set or off set.
Yeah. Rebecca, you are such a talent, and we are so grateful you took some time out to chat with us today. All the best to you. Okay. Very good luck, and we'll see you on stage. Mwah.
We can't wait.
I love you guys.